All right, what is going on today, fam? So, welcome to another episode of Hey Mark. Whether you're listening to the podcast version of this or you're watching the video, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you want to consume this information at. But welcome, and thank you so much for stumbling upon this, video or podcast. I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart because you are the reason that I do what I do. And what I mean by that is, at the end of the day, my goal here is to try and make people understand that no matter what they are dealing with, they are not alone. No matter what you're dealing with, you are not alone. And no matter what I'm dealing with, I am not alone. So let me just take a second to introduce myself. My name is Mark, and since I was a little kid, I really actually struggled with my mental health. And because of that, I was inspired to create this YouTube channel and podcast, basically to just talk about the struggles that I've been through and share my perspectives and tips. However, I can give any advice that may be able to help you out or help out a friend or a family member, whoever you might know who might be struggling. But I also like to talk to other people and hear their perspectives and their struggles and how that's come to, shape the people that they are. So the only thing that I ask from you guys is that you refer this type of content to one of your friends or family members, somebody who might be, struggling right now, somebody who might have struggled in the past, or somebody that, just wants to carve their life into a new direction. And that's pretty much what this episode is going to be about. So without further ado, I'm going to stop with this silly intro and just jump into what it is exactly I wanted to speak about, which is why you haven't started. And I'm not talking about a YouTube channel or a podcast, but I might be, if that's what you're thinking about starting. But at the end of the day, what I'm trying to focus on right now is just starting. Starting whatever it is that you've been thinking about starting for the past, couple days, couple weeks, couple months, or maybe even a couple years. Maybe you've been thinking about starting, a new sport, a martial art maybe, or a new career, a new hobby. Maybe starting to see somebody if you've been single for a while. Maybe starting to be more social, maybe starting to read more, maybe starting to learn a new language. No matter what it is, no matter what you've been thinking about starting, why haven't you yet? And I'm not asking this to try and attack you, or I'm not trying to ask this question to be condescending or belittle anybody, because I do this exact same thing. Even starting this YouTube channel was such a struggle for me because, it's something that I thought about since, I discovered YouTube when I was probably like 9 years old. And I always wanted to make a YouTube channel, and I even tried in the past when I was a little kid. I made some silly videos with a couple of buddies, but I never really actually took on the challenge. I never really committed to it. So last year I started off by just making videos, randomly talking to people on the beach, trying to interview them about mental health. And that's kind of how this got started. And now I just talk to my own phone in my room. So I don't know if that's a upward spiral or a downward spiral, but at the end of the day, I'm proud of myself because I got started on it and I've been pushing through to try and be as consistent as I possibly could. Whether it's something that's massive or really small, maybe it's, like I said, a hobby, a career, learning a new language, whatever it is, there seems to be a few reasons on why we don't start in the first place. And I'm going to try and talk about these the best that I can. I've kind of thought about this for a couple days now. And I think that the number one reason why people don't start when they are thinking about starting something is the fear of failure. And I'm going to circle back to this actually. But I think that is kind of the number one reason why people don't start, is just the fear of just failing. And like I said, I'm going to circle back to this because this is kind of the number one reason, but I'm going to list a couple more reasons right off the bat. Maybe you're afraid of being judged. Maybe you're afraid of losing something that you have right now. Maybe especially if it's a job or a career, maybe you're afraid that you won't be able to get this current job that you have back. Or you might not be able to be in the same position as you are right now. You might view it as taking a step backwards in your life. Or maybe you're afraid of success subconsciously, and you're afraid that even if you do try it and start it off and then you succeed at it, that you might just be in over your head, which obviously leads to really commonly felt imposter syndrome. I wanted to circle back to the fear of failure because that kind of is the end all and be all. That is the reason why we don't start things, in my personal opinion, because we're afraid of failing. And this is something that you're going to have to overcome. It's something that I have to overcome as well, because I'm still afraid of this myself. Because when we fail, what happens? First, we judge ourselves. Why did I even take that chance in the first place? I was being so irresponsible. I was being so reckless. Then you're afraid once you fail that maybe other people might judge you, and they might think of you as reckless or silly or stupid, or maybe just incapable of actually achieving your goals. Maybe you're afraid that you might mess up other situations in your life by, perhaps compromising them to spend more time on whatever it is you're trying to start. I want you to understand that failure, at the end of the day, I've said it once and I've said it a million times. I don't know how many times I've said this, but failure is inevitable at the end of the day. It's something that you're going to run into. It's something that you're going to, have to face no matter what. And even if you don't start this new job, this new career, this new hobby, and you just continue on doing whatever feels safe and comfortable at the moment right now, whatever you're doing at the moment, it's possible to fail at that too. And I just want to remind you of that, because if it's possible to fail with what you're doing right now, and it's possible to fail with something that you've always dreamed about doing, wouldn't you rather fail at something that you've dreamed about doing and then be able to learn from that failure and then get better at that and then try again and then be able to continuously grow at something that you're passionate about and always dreamt about and always thought about or have been thinking about recently while you're just continuing on with whatever routine that you have right now? Rather than failing at the routine that you have right now, which you don't even truly want to do because you're daydreaming about starting something else, it's a decision you're going to have to make on your own. And it's a decision I've had to make multiple times as I've changed jobs and careers multiple times. And I can tell you that, through all the different successes and failures that I've had, I kind of forget about them once I start something new, because that just engulfs me and I always just kind of get really drawn into whatever I'm currently doing, which is kind of nice. So that's just my perspective in terms of the fear of failure. So I'm going to try and leave you with a couple of, practical ideas or tips on, how to get started with something that you've been thinking about starting. And in my personal opinion, there's really only two ways. The first way is to start small. And this is going to be probably the easiest thing to wrap your head around. Starting small means you take one step at a time. And you basically just try and figure out the first couple steps that you can start working on instantly to get you closer to maybe just being in the better position to get towards the goal that you're looking to achieve. So if it's, learning a new language, maybe the starting small would be downloading an audiobook or just listening to a couple of YouTube videos. And then from there, once you start to understand, maybe one or two words, you can download an app maybe, and then work your way up to the point where maybe a friend that knows that language and you could start to maybe run a couple sentences by them and then keep learning and learning until you can actually form a few sentences and even have like a simple conversation. That's just one example. Maybe you want to start a new hobby. Maybe you want to learn how to ski. I don't know what the first step is because I'm not a ski instructor, but maybe the first step would be hiring a ski instructor or watching a couple YouTube videos on the basics to learn how to ski. Whatever it is, you can start small and just kind of work with incremental goals until you actually achieve the big goal that you have at the end of the day. So that's one way to do it, is to start small. The other way to do it is the way that I tend to, need to do things, which is just jump right into it. 2 feet, 10 toes in, fully commit, and just jump right into it. So one example of that is recently I wanted to start trying a martial art. I've been thinking about trying martial arts since I was a little kid. My dad did martial arts his whole life, and that was something that inspired me because there's a lot of qualities of my father that I want to carry on in myself. And recently what I've started to do with martial arts, and now I'm telling you guys this, so this is going to hold me even more accountable, is I started going to jiu-jitsu classes with my buddy. And pretty much every class I go to, I'm extremely overwhelmed. I'm not nearly as skilled as anybody else there, but I just try and come in with the best attitude that I possibly can and understand that, I'm the newest guy in there. And so that pretty much makes me a student to everybody there. There's something that I can learn from everyone that's in that class. And so I just have to show up and try my best to learn as much as I possibly can, as fast as I can, so I can stop getting choked out by everybody that's in that class. I've talked about, a few different reasons on why we don't start whatever it is that we want to start. And the number one reason is the fear of failure. But I think that that's also the number one reason why you should start, the fear of failure. Because failure comes in many ways. It could come in, trying something new and then failing at that. Or it could come in the sense that you're going to continue doing whatever you're doing right now because it's comfortable and you're complacent there and it's easy and it's safe. And maybe that's great for you right now. Maybe that's great for you for the next 5 years. Maybe it's great for you for the next 10 years or 20 years. But what happens in the long term when you start waking up and you're wondering, what if I did try? What if I did, get started on that, whatever I wanted to start, 5, 10, 15 years ago. And since that time, you're older now. Maybe you're 5, 10, 15 years older. And you're feeling like, man, I wish I could have just started back then because now I feel like it's a little bit too late. Or maybe I have more at stake now. Maybe you have a family. Maybe you have children. You have a mortgage set up. You have all these different other factors in your life that you could be putting at risk. Whereas if you were maybe just a bit younger or maybe just a bit, wealthier or whatever it is, you wish you could have started then. I think the fear of failure hits way harder when you feel like you couldn't start whatever you wanted to start. And that only happens way later down the line. So do yourself a favor and just start whatever you're wanting to start. We've all seen that Shia LaBeouf meme or video, whatever, that when it came out a couple years ago, and he was just screaming into the camera, just do it. Do yourself a favor and go look that video up right now, listen to it, and then do whatever you wanted to do. Because clearly you've been thinking about it, so why not just give it a shot? That's kind of what's on my mind today. I hope you guys have a great day, a great week, a great month, and a great year for the rest of 2020. Go out and start whatever it is you've been thinking about starting recently. Thank you so much, and peace out.